Everyone thinks this meeting will bring chaos, but the cards are showing me something completely different, and it involves 2028. The first card that just slammed onto my table is the Three of Cups, and I am getting chills because this is not what you expect for a political power meeting. Listen, 73% of psychics predicted doom, but my guides are literally screaming at me right now that this energy is about celebration behind closed doors. Oh, my community members have been flooding my inbox all week asking about this exact timeline because they felt the shift coming. They always do. Before we dive deep, drop power in the comments if you can feel this energy building, because what I am about to reveal about 2028 will change how you see everything. The spirits are not holding back today, and neither am I. So, this Three of Cups in relation to Putin and Trump meeting, this is throwing me completely off guard because usually when world leaders meet, we see sword energy, we see tower energy, we see conflict cards. But Three of Cups, this card is screaming alliance, celebration, friendship forming in private spaces where cameras cannot reach. What the universe is showing me is that behind all the public theater, behind all the media narratives about tension and conflict, these two leaders are actually toasting to something. And that something involves a complete reshaping of global power structures that most people will not see coming until it hits them like a freight train. The Cups energy here represents emotional satisfaction, shared goals, mutual benefits. But here is where it gets sinister. This is not celebration for the people, this is celebration for them. The three figures on this card are dancing while Rome burns, metaphorically speaking. They are celebrating the success of strategies that have been in motion for years. When I meditate deeper on this card, I am seeing private dinners, handshake deals, promises being made that will echo into 2028 and beyond. The Three of Cups always represents community and shared vision. But whose community? Whose vision? Certainly not ours. This card is telling me that what looks like political tension on the surface is actually coordinated theater. The real business happens in rooms where no recording devices exist, in conversations that will never make headlines, in agreements that bypass traditional diplomatic channels completely. But wait, the second card just revealed itself, and I literally jumped back from my table. The Hermit is now staring at me, and this combination is sending ice through my veins because this card changes everything about what I just told you. The Hermit following Three of Cups is like watching a celebration turn into a funeral. This card represents isolation, withdrawal, going underground, seeking truth in darkness. After the private celebrations, after the secret toasts, someone goes into hiding. Someone disappears from public view. Someone becomes the hermit. Is this Trump? Is this Putin? Or is this America itself becoming the hermit nation, isolated from its former allies after whatever agreements are made in these private meetings? The hermit carries a lantern, searching for truth, but also hiding from the world above ground. What terrifies me about this energy is that the hermit often appears when someone has knowledge that must be hidden, when truth becomes dangerous, when the only safe place is in the shadows. After the celebration comes the isolation. After the handshakes come the consequences. The Hermit in 2028 context is showing me America potentially withdrawing from international commitments, isolating from NATO allies, turning inward in ways that fundamentally alter our role in the world. But this withdrawal is not accidental. It is the result of promises made in those Three of Cups moments. My guides are showing me images of empty embassy buildings, recalled ambassadors, trade agreements torn up. The Hermit does not just represent personal soul-searching. On a national level, this card can mean a country turning its back on the world stage. But here is what is making my hands shake right now. The Hermit also represents someone who has learned terrible secrets and must carry them alone. Someone knows something about these private meetings that cannot be shared. Someone becomes the keeper of dangerous knowledge. Comments are absolutely exploding right now, with people saying they feel this isolation energy building already. You all are so intuitive, it gives me goosebumps. This hermit energy is not just coming, it is already here, lurking beneath the surface of every political news cycle. The third card that just materialized, and I have never seen energy like this before, is the King of Swords, and my entire body is vibrating because this card is pure authoritarian power manifested. This is the card of the ultimate strategist, the master manipulator, the one who cuts through opposition with surgical precision. King of Swords represents the mind over matter, strategy over emotion, cold calculation over human feelings. When this card appears in political readings, it screams authoritarian control. This king does not rule through love or inspiration. He rules through fear, through superior intelligence, through cutting away anything that opposes his vision. But here is what is making me nauseous. This King of Swords is not just one person. The energy I am receiving suggests this represents a merging of authoritarian minds, a collaboration between master strategists who have studied the playbook of control and are implementing it on a scale we have never seen. The King of Swords makes decisions that affect millions of lives without losing a single night of sleep. He sees people as chess pieces, countries as game boards, democracy as an inconvenient obstacle to efficiency. This card following the Hermit tells me that after America isolates, after we withdraw from the world stage, we become internally ruled by this cold, calculating energy. 2028 is showing up as the year when the mask comes completely off. No more pretending to care about public opinion. No more theatrical democracy. No more illusion of choice. The King of Swords rules through superior strategy, and the people do not even realize they are being conquered until the game is already over. What chills me to my core about this progression? Three of Cups celebration leads to Hermit isolation, which enables King of Swords domination. It is like watching a perfectly executed plan unfold across years, with each phase setting up the next phase with mathematical precision. My private community has been having complete meltdowns over this exact energy pattern. They have been seeing this building for months now, and honestly, their intuition terrifies me sometimes, because they are never wrong about these major shifts. The fourth card that just slammed down is making me question everything I thought I knew about resistance and opposition because justice just appeared, and this card is laughing at everyone who thinks the system will save us. Justice in this context is not what you think it means. It is their justice, authoritarian justice, the kind of balance that serves power rather than people. Justice represents karma, consequences, the scales being balanced. But whose scales? Who decides what balance looks like? The traditional interpretation says truth will prevail. But what if those in power are the ones defining truth? This justice card is showing me legal systems being weaponized, courts being stacked, laws being rewritten to serve authoritarian goals. Justice becomes a tool of oppression rather than protection. The scales tip toward whoever controls the weighing mechanism. In 2028, justice energy suggests that everything happening will be technically legal, officially sanctioned, constitutionally justified through reinterpreted laws and packed courts. Authoritarianism does not announce itself with illegal coups. It arrives wearing the robes of legitimacy, carrying the gavel of justice, speaking the language of law and order. The blindfold on Lady Justice becomes willful ignorance rather than impartial fairness. The sword becomes punishment for dissent rather than protection for truth. The scales become rigged games rather than balanced measurement. But here is what is making my entire body tingle with warning energy. Justice also represents unavoidable consequences. What goes around comes around. The very systems being weaponized today will eventually turn on their creators. Karma is patient, but karma is inevitable. This gives me hope that whatever authoritarian structures emerge from Putin-Trump collaborations, from American isolation, from King of Swords control, they contain the seeds of their own destruction. Justice delayed is not justice denied. The scales will eventually balance, but probably not in the timeline most people expect. The fifth card that just revealed itself is sending shockwaves through my entire being because the star just appeared, and this card represents hope in the darkest timeline. After celebration, isolation, authoritarian control, and weaponized justice, the star appears like dawn after the longest night. The star represents guidance, inspiration, hope restored, healing after trauma, light returning after darkness. This card tells me that 2028 might be the darkness before dawn, rather than the beginning of permanent night. The star never appears unless there has been destruction that requires rebuilding. What I am seeing in this star energy is not political saviors or electoral solutions. This is grassroots healing, community formation, people finding each other and creating alternative systems of support and resistance. The star represents the human spirit that cannot be crushed no matter how sophisticated the oppression. The woman on the star card pours water from two jugs, one onto land representing practical action, one into the water representing emotional and spiritual renewal. This tells me that effective resistance requires both practical organization and spiritual connection, both material action and inner healing. The stars above her represent guidance from higher consciousness, intuitive knowing that transcends propaganda and lies. When traditional information sources become compromised, when media becomes propaganda, when truth becomes illegal, the star reminds us that inner knowing cannot be legislated away. But here is what gives me chills of recognition. The star often appears when people have lost everything else and discover they still have each other. When institutions fail, when systems collapse, when authorities betray their trust, people remember how to form genuine community. My guides are showing me images of underground networks, alternative economies, communities that function outside authoritarian control. The star represents the phoenix rising not through political processes, but through human connection that transcends political manipulation. This card placement suggests that whatever happens through Putin-Trump collaboration, through American isolation, through authoritarian consolidation, it ultimately serves to wake people up to their own power, to their ability to create parallel systems, to their capacity for genuine community that no government can control or destroy. The sixth and most powerful card that just exploded onto my reading table is making every hair on my body stand up, because the moon just revealed itself, and this card represents the hidden truth behind everything we have been discussing. The moon is deception, illusion, things not being what they seem, secrets operating in darkness. The moon following the star tells me that even our hopes and dreams of resistance are being monitored, influenced, potentially co-opted by forces we cannot see clearly. The moon represents the psychological warfare happening beneath the surface of political theater. What appears to be organic grassroots movement might be astroturfed manipulation. What seems like authentic resistance might be controlled opposition. What looks like independent media might be sophisticated propaganda. The moon warns us that in the age of information warfare, nothing is exactly what it appears to be. But here is where the moon becomes our ally rather than our enemy. This card also represents intuition that sees through deception. The moon illuminates the night sky not with harsh daylight truth, but with gentle silver light that reveals what daylight cannot show. Intuitive knowing that bypasses rational analysis and sees directly to the heart of matters. The two pillars on the moon card represent the choice between truth and illusion, between authentic knowing and manufactured consent. The path between them is narrow and dangerous, requiring careful navigation by moonlight rather than confident marching in sunlight. The lobster emerging from water represents deep, subconscious knowledge rising to conscious awareness. Ancient wisdom that has been sleeping underwater suddenly surfaces when traditional guidance systems fail. Indigenous knowing that has been suppressed suddenly becomes essential for survival. In 2028 context, the moon tells me that the most important information will not come through official channels, mainstream media, or government announcements. Truth will emerge through dreams, through synchronicities, through whispered conversations between trusted friends, through intuitive flashes that cannot be explained rationally. The moon phase energy suggests that what is happening between Putin and Trump, what is planned for American authoritarianism, what is being prepared for 2028, much of this exists in the realm of plausible deniability, psychological manipulation, influence operations that leave no fingerprints. But the moon also promises that lies cannot survive indefinitely in moonlight. What is hidden will be revealed, but through intuitive processes rather than investigative journalism, through collective awakening rather than whistleblower documents, through mass recognition of patterns that cannot be unseen once they are perceived. The seventh and most shocking card that just materialized from the depths of this reading is the Devil. And I am literally getting goosebumps all over my arms, because this card represents the binding chains of systemic control that will define the 2028 timeline. The Devil is not about individual evil. It is about systems of control that make people complicit in their own oppression. The Devil card shows two figures chained to a pedestal. But here is the key insight. The chains are loose enough that they could remove them at any time. They remain chained not because they have to, but because they have been convinced they have no choice. This is the essence of psychological authoritarianism. The Devil in this Putin Trump 2028 context represents economic systems that trap people in wage slavery, media systems that trap people in manufactured consent, political systems that trap people in false choices, social media systems that trap people in dopamine addiction and tribal thinking. But here is what is making my hands shake as I hold this card. The Devil also represents the moment when people realize the chains are not locked. The moment when they understand they have been complicit in systems that do not serve them. The moment when they choose to remove their own chains rather than waiting for someone else to liberate them. The Devil often appears in readings right before major liberation because you cannot free yourself from chains you do not recognize. This card is both warning and invitation. Warning about the seductive nature of comfortable slavery, invitation to examine which chains we wear voluntarily. In the timeline leading to 2028, the Devil suggests that authoritarian control will not require force or violence. It will seduce people into choosing their own limitations through fear, convenience, entertainment, and the illusion of safety. People will hand over their freedoms in exchange for promises they know are probably lies. But the Devil reversed energy that I am also feeling suggests that awakening is possible at any moment. The chains of psychological control only work as long as people believe they are necessary. Mass awakening happens when enough people simultaneously realize they have been participating in their own oppression. My guides are showing me images of people looking at their phones and suddenly seeing the chains. Looking at their jobs and suddenly recognizing the trap. Looking at their political choices and suddenly understanding the illusion. The Devil's greatest power is also its greatest weakness. It depends entirely on consent. The eighth and final card that has emerged from this intense reading is completely blowing my mind because the world just appeared, and this card represents the completion of whatever cycle is beginning with Putin-Trump collaboration. The world is the end of one era and the beginning of another. But completion does not always mean victory for the forces we hope will win. The world represents the achievement of long-term goals, the manifestation of plans that have been in motion for years or decades, the successful completion of a major cycle. In the context of everything we have discussed today, this card suggests that whatever is happening behind closed doors between authoritarian leaders, It is not random, it is not chaotic, it is part of a larger design that is nearing completion. The figure on the world card dances within a wreath of victory, surrounded by the four elements representing mastery over material reality. This level of mastery does not happen overnight. It represents the culmination of systematic effort over time. Strategic thinking that spans electoral cycles, economic policies that reshape entire generations, cultural manipulation that changes how people think about freedom and security. But here is what gives me a strange combination of terror and hope. The world also represents the moment when one age ends and another begins. When old systems finally collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. When new possibilities emerge that were impossible to imagine within the previous paradigm. The world in 2028 suggests that whatever authoritarian completion is achieved, it will also contain the seeds of its own transcendence. The very success of control systems creates conditions for their eventual overthrow. The very perfection of manipulation creates people who understand manipulation. The very completion of one cycle triggers the beginning of another cycle. What I am seeing in the world energy is not just political completion, but consciousness completion. Humanity completing a long cycle of learning about power, control, freedom, and responsibility, the hard way, through experiencing the consequences of giving away power to others rather than claiming power for themselves. The dancing figure on the world card represents consciousness that has integrated all experiences, learned from all mistakes, transcended all limitations. On a collective level, this suggests humanity graduating from the school of external authority into the university of self-governance. But graduation day is still some distance from 2028. The world card suggests that what appears to be authoritarian victory in 2028 is actually the final exam that humanity must pass in order to evolve beyond the need for external control systems entirely. The comments section is absolutely on fire right now, with people sharing their own visions and confirmations of these energies. You all are feeling this completion energy too. This sense that we are approaching the end of something massive and the beginning of something we cannot yet fully imagine. This has been one of the most intense readings I have ever channeled, and I am honestly emotionally exhausted from receiving such heavy information. 8 cards that tell the story of celebration, isolation, control, weaponized justice, hope, deception, psychological chains, and ultimate completion. The timeline from now until 2028 is not going to be comfortable for anyone who values traditional American democracy. But it might be necessary for anyone who values human evolution beyond the need for any form of external authority that does not serve the highest good of all beings. If this reading resonated with your soul, if you felt these energies building in your own life, if you want to stay connected as these timelines unfold, you know where to find me for deeper guidance through whatever comes next. Subscribe now, because your future literally depends on staying awake and aware as these prophecies manifest in real time. The universe is not done speaking through these cards, and neither am I.